we need a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held September 15th, 2022.
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Jasper? Yes. Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Chairperson Burry?
Yes. Would someone please introduce Resolution 3A?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the Carver Heights, Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, providing funding for the Home Improvement Grant Program for projects located within the Carver Heights, Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency for fiscal year 2023 and providing an effective date.
Approval.
Discussion?
I have just something. This is going to come up 5 different times tonight on all 3 CRAs, and then think twice on the agenda. I only want to bring it up once, and that's it. But I go back to what I've said all along on these programs, that just giving money away with no strings attached to the ownership and how long the ownership has to be on the property. I just don't think we should be using taxpayer money to fund improvements to properties for people to turn around and basically flip the property and just keep the taxpayer money. I think this really should be for homeowners, and there should be some time length that they have to stay in the home before they can get rid of it.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I would like to make a couple of questions. This $19,000, this is coming from the CRA budget, correct? I would like to make an amendment to the budget if possible, so we can add additional funds, because there are a lot of people in need of funding to help them, to assist them with their housing. And, you know, some people may have roof issues, window issues, and things of that nature. So I would like to see us increase the budget, because $19,000 is not really a lot of money for a lot of needed individuals in the community.
And like I said, I'm not fundamentally against these grants. My fundamental issue is there's no strings attached to any length of time of ownership once the improvements are done. I just think there should be.
I have a question, please, Mayor. I'm sorry, I left my glasses, so excuse me. These these list of 4 individuals, have these applications already taken place? I believe so. Dan?
Thank you, Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. Yes, the applications have been brought into the Planning and Zoning office where the program is managed. These were the 4 that we received. Mm-hmm. They have been reviewed at staff level and with the city manager's office, so that now they come to you. If they are approved, then there are basically 2 options. The homeowner does the improvements using a licensed contractor, which has to be approved in building inspections improved prior to issuance of a check, or we have been working directly with some contractors who will do the work up front once these are approved, and then once it's inspected, we can issue the check directly to them, to the contractor.
I have a second question as well, please. Is this information available to all, or is this just information that you pull from off of the website to find out?
It's available to anyone. It's on our website. I believe there's applications at the Chamber of Commerce and Downtown Partnership as well.
So may I also add another question, please? Sorry. On these applications, were these the only ones that were approved that, say, may not have been completed, or is this the only one?
These were the only ones that were received.
Okay.
That's correct.
Right.
We did receive 4 on this.
And they are ready to go with applications saying a plus?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Dan, I have another question. Were these individuals code violations? I was just trying to understand, and how did we come about getting this? Because I wasn't even aware that the application process had began. I know there were some other residents within the community. They were inquiring about this and wanted to be, submit their application as well. So I wasn't sure.
Sure. The information is mainly available on our website, but again, it's available at the Downtown Partnership and Chamber of Commerce, and I'm not sure that it's widely knowledge. I'm not sure everyone in Leesburg knows that these programs exist.
Okay, because I was wondering, was there a deadline?
Oh, yes, ma'am. There are deadlines. Normally, the window opens November 1st, October 1st, and ends November 15th for the applications. Then staff processes and reviews, and we have staff review, then it's taken to city manager review, and then on to the CRA for your approval.
Okay, and once again, like I said, I would like to make an amendment to the budget so that we can increase this amount.
So let me give you some data on that. Yeah, as Dan said, we do this. Kind of the cycle is every fiscal year. We plan a certain amount of expenditures for the facade, the home grant, the commission, the CRA commission, then puts that in the budget. I can't remember how much you had in the fiscal year budget for this year. You may not have put anything in for this year because you had unspent funds from last year. So we're trying to spend those funds. The typical cycle is October 1, but the program is also written such that if you fund it upon the budget. So if we don't have money or we have extra money, we will do an extra cycle. Hence why you're getting these now. So where we're at is pending approval. Should this body approve what's in your packet, you'll be left with. It was $25,000 for the home program and $50,000 for the FSL program. So if you want to run another cycle on that this fiscal year, you probably, you got a couple more grants in there. We can do some advertisement. I think doing an advertisement with Lakefront TV specifically on the FSL on the home grant program is a good thing to get more word out. We've run the program for, I don't know, 7, 8 years now. Dan says 5, so 5 to 8. It's been a while, so I think it'd probably be a good thing to freshen up and make sure we have more participation. My suggestion for this body would be to spend that allocation. You have it, so you still have 25 and 50 separately for this year. So I would spend that before I make a new allocation, because around the corner you're going to have a discussion on your larger goals on March 13th, and then you're going to have budget process right behind that. If you do want to make an additional appropriation besides what's remaining after tonight, you've got $360,000 that we didn't allocate in fiscal 20 year. So you could move that over into the facade sign program or the home grant program. Again, I would wait until you have further discussions on that. But just those are the numbers you're working with.
Dan, you said we had 4. Did we have 4 applicants or 4 qualified that filled out? I mean, do you know the difference? Was there more people interested, or was it?
In the
4?
agenda memo, it states that there were 4 applicants.
Okay. So
And they
we're
were
not
all
sure if,
qualified. They were all qualified for it.
Okay.
There were a couple, I think, on the general fund side that were. Diane had that on her chart.
Okay.
And one more question, please. The criteria, it could be of anyone, correct?
It has to be within the specific CRA boundaries.
Okay,
for
gotcha.
each-
That you live, your location, and things of that. Okay.
And it also includes, I believe, parts of South Street and East and West Main.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how to do this. I'm Carol Nichols. I live at 2061 Montclair Road, and I'm in Oak Ridge Condominiums, which is like a mobile home park, but you own your own land. And it says here, this is the Montclair area redevelopment, but does that include Oak Ridge Condominiums?
I believe so. I believe so. We would have to recheck the zoning map, but I believe it does.
Okay. I'm here to ask if you could make a pathway from the park behind our condominiums to the apartments that's not cutting through our fence, breaking our fences, having us call the police. They redug that ditch next to our fence last year to get rid of rats and stuff, I guess. But that took away their path. Now they're cutting through our land. Can you put that money, some of your money, in to fix up Montclair area for that?
I think we spoke on the phone.
I don't know. Who are you?
My name is Al.
Oh.
I'm the city manager.
Yes, hi. And they broke the fence, and you gave us some signs. Carol.
Mrs. Nichols has an operational issue that staff will work on her with. Essentially, when we built the fence around Berry Park and did some other things, it changed kind of the pattern of the homeless folks in the area.
Yeah.
So now more homeless folks are coming on her property. So we'll work with her outside CRA funds, or maybe we do need to grab some CRA funds, but she's got an operational issue. I know Chief Hicks has spoken with her. I believe Cliff has as well. So we'll work with the park. We know the problem exists.
Yeah. So it's a homeless issue.
We're just asking for a path on the other side of our fence. That's all. And it used to be there, and you took it away, and now it needs to be back. Okay, thanks.
And I'd recommend you file a trespassing warrant with the police department. Okay.
We have a letter.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question to address Commissioner Connell's concerns. Can we modify the application to state that they have to live at the residence or the business has to be there for so long?
Yeah, you would just need to, I can't remember if we adopted the program by ordinance or by resolution, but however we did it, we modify the program by like action. And if that's something the commission wants to do, we can do that. And I would suggest, if you want that discussion now in the CRA capacity or do that in your commission capacity, it would be something we would need to agendize, modify it, and then have the discussion, like I said, for whether, like action.
Okay.
So maybe at the next city commission meeting, we could talk about that,
Or you may want to talk about it this evening.
or we can talk about it this evening.
I would just like to add another comment too. A lot of these homeowners, I know them, and they live and actually own the property. They're not renters, they're not investors. They actually own the property and have been living in these houses for a while. That's all I have.
That was a sidebar. So there is a differential. You know, the FSL program, typically commercial based. We don't have a you can't sell the property clause in there, similar to the downtown renovation program. The home grant program is you have to be a homeowner. We don't, at this stage, you have to be a homeowner to be eligible. So John Doe has to live on 1 Maple Street to be able to get money to fix his home on 1 Maple Street. But we don't have the John Doe can't sell his home after receiving those monies in the grant program. So again, just if we're going to modify the program, we just need to do it across the board by like action.
This is a matching grant too, isn't it?
Yes, they're both matching grants.
Okay.
Both 80-20, I believe.
Okay. I mean, I just wanted-
No. The home grant's not. The home is up
The
to
home grant's
$5,000.
not?
Zero.
Okay.
The sign grant is 80-20. Up to highest grant the city will give is 20 grand.
Okay.
So if it's 20 grand, 10 grand has to go in by the company to make 30.
Yeah,
I think
okay,
my math
thank
is
you.
right.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
No.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Jasper,
Yes.
Chairperson Burry.
Yes. We'll have roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Nothing.
Commissioner Reisman,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Jasper,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Peterson,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Berry,
Nothing.
Chairperson Burry.
Nothing tonight.
Okay.
Greater Leesburg, Nick? Andy's just got to change some plates around. The Greater Leesburg Community Redevelopment Agency. It's Monday, February 27th. The time is 5:17. Call the meeting to order. We've already had the invocation and the pledge. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry, Commissioner Reed, Chairperson Burry.
Yes. Will someone please introduce Resolution 3A?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the Greater Leesburg Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, providing funding for the facade, sign, and landscape grant program for projects located within the Greater Leesburg Community Redevelopment Area for fiscal year 2023 and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? No comment? Roll call. All right, is there any public, any public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Connell,
No.
Chairperson Burry.
Yes. Will someone please introduce Resolution 3B?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the Greater Leesburg Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, providing funding for the Home Improvement Grant Program for projects located within the Greater Leesburg Community Redevelopment Area for fiscal year 2023 and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Public? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Connell,
No.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Chairperson Burry.
Yes. Roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Reisman,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Peterson,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Barry,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Reed, Chairperson Burry.
So, Al, are we still banking about, how's it doing? We were doing about $200K a year. Is that the?
Not in the downtown. That's, are you
I thought
mixing
this
that up with
greater-
44127?
I thought
This Greater Leesburg.
it was bringing in about 75K, and then we were splitting it.
It's 600, isn't it? 3 and 3? 245
So it
total
went
that
up?
we're splitting. Is that the total nut, or is that the nut we share?
Yeah, so
240
we're
cash.
above what, last year it was 200-ish, and,
Yeah.
okay, so that's good news.
Yeah.
Just,
Hey, and the only thing I wanted to let you know, there were a couple applicants in this round that didn't qualify. I think we sent that out to you. Mystic Ice Cream pops into my head as one. And also, we made an internal staff mod to the grants. When we awarded the facade and landscape grant to, I want to say it's 215 West Main, the new building on the corner, 213 or 215 next to Turner's, with the company out of Ocala.
Yes.
There was a pending facade and signs landscape grant with Mr. Frost. He hadn't spent that yet. So that money, actually, we sent notice to him that grant was canceled because you awarded it to the new owner. So those monies aren't being spent in
Same
duplicate.
place.
Yeah. So the monies are spent correctly, and that's why I saw it as an administrative change. And then Mystic Ice Cream and in a couple of other places who had already received FSL grants didn't come to your attention. So, and Commissioner Reed, welcome aboard. Nice to meet you.
any other discussion?
Done.
We're done. Move that one. Highway 441, that's the last one.
Yes, sir.
I forget where I am sometimes, Andy.
That's okay.
Oh, she's gonna.
So she's going to miss this one and come back for the
That's
next one.
even
so she
better.
can read.
All right. All right, we'll call to order. This is the U.S. Highway 441/27 CRA meeting at the City Commission building. It's Monday, February 27th, 2023. It's 5:22. We'll call the meeting to order. We've already had an invocation and a pledge. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry.
Yes.
Here, Chairperson Bury, sorry.
Yes. That
Sorry.
Berry thing
Yes.
gets really hard up here sometimes.
Yeah, it does. It was easier when she's over there.
Yeah. So, would someone please introduce Resolution 3A, please?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the U.S. Highway 441/27 Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving funding for the facade, sign, and landscape grant program for projects located within the U.S. Highway 441/27 Community Redevelopment Agency area for fiscal year 2023 and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Public discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
No.
Chairperson Bury.
Yes. Would someone please introduce Resolution 3B?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the U.S. Highway 441/27 Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving funding for the Home Improvement Grant Program for projects located within the U.S. Highway 441/27 Community Redevelopment Agency area for fiscal year 2023 and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Public discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
No.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Chairperson Bury.
Yes. Roll call?
Commissioner Connell,
Nothing.
Commissioner Reisman,
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Peterson.
I just want to add a comment on all three of the CRAs. I don't know how we're marketing or advertising it, but just see maybe we could improve on that a little bit, get more applications. Okay, thank you.
Chairperson Bury.
Nothing tonight. We'll adjourn that.
Okay.
3-4 miles back.
If you'll just bear with us, one of our commissioners forgot her glasses. She had to run down to the car. That's what's taken a little while. So bear with us, please. Thank you. We'll call to order the City Commission meeting. It is Monday, February 27th, 2023. The time is 5:40. We have already had the invocation tonight, and we have had the pledge. I'd like to make an announcement. Anyone that is here for item 6A1, that is the Lee Village, the Lee School property. We will not be addressing that at this meeting. It has been moved to the March 13th meeting. The petitioner asked for a little time to consider the density issues. So we are going to move forward and have that meeting on 3/13. And it will be re-advertised. We've got a pretty crowded house tonight. We know we'll have a lot of folks that want to speak. We ask when you come up that you give your name and your address very clearly so Andy can get it. We do have a 3-minute time limit, so just letting everybody know. Please be respectful of all the speakers. It's a small room. If you start talking with each other, it can get real loud real quick. Let's keep it civil and have a good meeting, okay? We'll move on to, we have no proclamations, and we have no presentations. We'll move into public comment. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment? No.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lisa Hayden. I live at 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg, Florida. And I do have a compliment. It is for the Citizens Request Center that can be found on Leesburg's website. It's an outstanding tool. And like all tools, it's really the people who are backing that tool that make it really successful. So I'd like to personally recognize staff members, City Clerk Andy Purvis, and also Melissa Metters and Candy Harper, among others, who promptly give us accurate and informative answers to our crazy questions that we are putting through. Thank you so much. Unrelated to that, there's a notice of appearance, and I was told that maybe Mr. Watson, the city attorney, could help me with this. If I were to fill out this notice of appearance 5 days ago and submit it and cross-examine somebody, could I be named a party to a potential lawsuit later on?
You could potentially be a party to an action that involves a challenge to this particular development project, not necessarily as a party whose property is affected. Well, not as an applicant, but as a party whose property may have been affected. And so that would preserve your ability to do that. Furnishing that document to the city would give the city a record of your appearance and sort of your formal appearance for this particular matter.
So let's say if I spoke on something and it was to be voted down and then there's litigation, would having this notice of appearance and a cross-examination question or two then open me up personally?
Well, I can't give you legal advice as far as what might expose you to liability. My role is to advise the city on procedures and laws that impact the decision-making before them. So I'd have to direct you to sort of your own independent counsel to determine questions of what might expose you to liability or what might not expose you to liability. Providing the notice of appearance for purposes of this body's hearing tonight would give you the opportunity to speak and cross-examine, as you said, but I can't tell you whether or not that would expose you to liability. You would have to.
Okay, just because we live in such a litigious world, and we want to be cautious about
I understand.
stepping into something.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I appreciate the question, but like I said, my role is to give this body legal advice and counsel, and I just have to be careful to not dispense that advice to everyone
Okay,
else.
and maybe there could be like a caveat, maybe you want to check with your attorney before you fill out this paper, and, because I've seen it happen where somebody inadvertently did something, and then all of a sudden they were, oh my goodness, now they're a party to a further action. So just to protect the public.
Okay,
But
thank you. We
so
appreciate the
much.
comment. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
After he gives it.
Right. Hi, Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg. Before I do my little comment, I want to thank Lucy over at the library to help us out with. We had to have a meeting with a council member, and they opened up a library room for us for a meeting, and it was very helpful. So I want to definitely send my praise that way. Now, regarding the Lee Street School property, not specifically on that because I know it's not up, but just a general thing in Leesburg in general. The image that's posted on the sign that I've seen published on the internet appears as though that would be a really nice neighborhood. I understand that it's an older picture. Now, seeing what has been submitted to Leesburg's Planning and Zoning Board, I can see why they shot it down. It's truly a horrible alternative. The density is way too high. But I'm still not really talking about that. There's a delicate balance between what's affordable for all, but a win-win-win scenario is achievable, and I assume that's why they pulled that back so they can have more time to rediscuss what's going on here. Done right, a development of the area that can be rewarding for the county, but more importantly for the people who already live in that area, as well as those who will be moving into a new development, and it could be any development in Leesburg, and for the city itself. So if something's to be developed, there can be a negotiable win-win-win scenario. It really should be. And in fact, a lot of developments that have been submitted before the council here have done very well. I mean, there's almost no opposition really to it. All right. So the goal and objective should be to maximize the benefit to the development to all parties, the local residents who are already in place, the new residents that the city seeks to bring into the area, and the city itself. I believe that this can be accomplished through open negotiation with all those concerned. A development which provides solutions to all parties is not only achievable, but should be the ultimate goal and objective in a win-win-win scenario. And I thank you very much.
Gary Custer, 8909 East Treasure Island Avenue. Like Commissioner Barry, I forgot my glasses, but they're at home. So Allison is going to read this, and it's everything for me just gets double vision if I try and read. But this is an ordinance, a city ordinance, and I think it directly affects your annexation and different things.
It's Article 7, Comprehensive Plan, Part 1, Section 2-242, Purpose and Intent. Encourage the most appropriate use of land, water, and other resources. Promote and protect the public health, safety, good order, appearance, convenience, aesthetics, and general welfare. Prevent the potential of urban sprawl and leapfrog developments. Provide adequate and energy-efficient transportation, water, sewage, drainage, fire protection, law enforcement, schools, parks, recreation facilities, and housing. Any other services and facilities resource. And then Article 7, Comprehensive Plan, Part 2, Section 2-242, Purpose and Intent, and protect the natural and historic resources which within the city while protecting the private property rights. The provision of elements adopted by this article are declared to be the minimum requirements for maintaining the character and stability of present and future land use and development of the incorporated areas of the city. Order number 92-9, all that good stuff.
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
These you guys can have. The first one is a picture that we have of which hangs over in planning and zoning. All the white areas are places you've already annexed or to be annexed. This is a wildlife that's affected by all the annexation. These are the things, and it's an ordinance, but I don't think you're really living up to it. These red ones are the current ones. And all of this along 44, it's a 4.5-mile stretch from 441 to Haynes Creek. All of that, there's 1,300 houses to be built on a 2-lane road. It all feeds onto a 2-lane road. 1,300 houses converts to 2,700 cars, which converts to 5,200 trips. You have 5,200 additional trips on a 2-lane road. Doesn't work.
Any other public comment? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 5, routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. Pull the item or items from the consent agenda, vote on remaining items with one roll call vote, discuss each pulled item, and vote by roll call. Is there any items anyone would like to pull?
Yes. 5B2, 5C1, 5C3, and 5C6.
Okay, hang on, let me. Say those again, Jay, sorry.
B2, C1, C3, and C6.
And C6?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any other items? All right. We'll now vote on the remaining items with one roll call vote. Roll call. Oh, we got a
Motion to approve remaining items on consent agenda.
Second.
roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. So, would someone please introduce 5B2?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a professional services design agreement with Half Associates, Inc., related to the athletic facility/field renovation and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Yes, I have several questions on this. The professional services, I think, is $562,000. And I think that just pertains to Susan Street only. I know when we discussed this last year, it was this plan was kind of like a combination between Susan Street and Sleepy Hollow for, I thought, a total price of about $3 million. My understanding now, Susan Street alone may be pushing $5 million. I know there's a grant, I guess it's possibly available the county may give us for $1 million, but that's not been finalized. And, you know, it's way over budget of what we discussed. I mean, we're talking about $3 million for both projects. Now we're talking about $5 million for one. And there's no funding source at all that I'm aware of that we have to even address Sleepy Hollow. So I just can't see to spend any money on professional services now until we see if we can even make up the difference to even do Susan Street. And even if we can, I mean, what are we accomplishing for that kind of money? I mean, we're losing 2 Little League fields and 2 softball fields that were supposed to go to Sleepy Hollow that we don't even have a funding source to do that. And I would like to hold off on this project until we even confirm that we can get the funding sources to make up to the $3 million to get to the $5 million that we approved for both projects. I just think we're jumping the gun here a little bit. I think we should just postpone this on the professional services until we see if the county and or possibly another funding source is even going to come through to make up the $2 million difference. And then if it comes through, then have a discussion whether we want to move forward with either one of the projects. I hate to spend that kind of money, and we're losing 4 ball fields in the process.
Yeah, I'll address this. I understand Commissioner Connell's concerns, appreciate the fiduciary responsibility commissioners taking on. The short answer is, at this phase, we really need to get the project started. We really need to move forward with some design parameters so that we can start isolating what costs are going to be. We're at a little bit of a conundrum, probably like a 30-day window, as the commissioner said, between when we find out we get some more grant money and a flux of when we would start spending contractual money with half should you approve this. I'm not overly concerned about that. My overall concern is we need to keep the project moving forward. If you want to put a restriction on that, like not to spend with half until we receive grant, that's fine, because then we anticipate that the grant money would be approved by the county next month, and it'll save a step coming back. Or not to spend up above a certain amount. That I think that would be reasonable as well. That's the short answer. So the longer answer. The Susan Street project that is contemplated in these half design parameters is a $583,000 expense. It's $562,800 to be exact. The process does the redesign of Susan Street, and essentially what we're trying to do, as we discussed when we pulled $3 million from the ARP funding, which is American Recovery Program monies, we set aside $3 million. My recollection is we probably really weren't sure what the project was going to be, but the contemplation of this commission as well as the Recreation Board was to use Susan Street and Sleepy Hollow to improve our sports marketing aspects and to bring people into Leesburg, as well as benefit our local folks here of having two different type of facilities. The Susan Street, as we've now dubbed it, is rectangle fields. So we're trying to convert Susan Street from, I think there's 4 baseball fields out there, and the baseball fields and softball fields we will refer to henceforth as diamond sports and rectangle sports. So our concept is to recreate Susan Street so that is a rectangle sports complex. And on rectangle fields, we're going to play football, soccer, rugby, lacrosse, and those things that then we can work in partnership with Travis's team at Rec, as well as Allison Strange's group, to recruit and bring in tournaments and leagues and facilities that are going to use those fields and complexes to promote recreational sports and recreational marketing, which then heads and beds and invest in the Carver Heights area, which is Susan Street. And so that's the gist. Since we met last, when we put forth this concept, numbers have changed. So the other part of that concept was the diamond fields. So over at Susan Street, don't hold me to this, I think we had about 7 diamond fields right now, 4 being the major complexes, fields 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think we have 3 smaller fields on the 3 diamond fields kind of on the downside, on the north side of the property, and then we had the 2 rectangle fields. So part of this concept then moves into doing more things at Sleepy Hollow to go diamond fields. So the first thing on deck would be is to change the rectangle fields into diamond fields. But our concept was, chicken or the egg kind of concept. What do we do to keep our facilities moving while we're in flux? And number one is because we have sufficient diamond fields to continue doing our activities with recreational local programming, as well as bringing in the NCAA, working with Allison Strange and the group, which is the spring games and all that stuff. And then as well as the stuff that Travis markets on other tournaments, we feel like the 7 gets us by for now. So the focus is kind of, which side first. So the focus became do the rectangle fields first. So that means a focus on Susan Street. So as we move forward in that concept, we like where we've been at, we understand that costs are starting to go up. And there's multiple concepts that we've presented on how Susan Street goes. This concept focuses on doing a stadium-style turf, AstroTurf. I don't know if we call it that these days, but I guess if you're old school like me, you still call it AstroTurf. So everybody knows what we're talking about.
Artificial turf.
Artificial turf. Okay, that's probably better. with a grandstand and creating a big stadium environment. Then there's making the other rectangle fields from the diamond fields, losing the tennis courts, and putting together that plan. Then there's the concession stands, bathrooms, ingress. So there's about 6 items that we identified that I believe is in the agenda transmittal we're trying to head. And our estimates on that actually is probably greater than $5 million. But where we're at this stage is to get as much money accumulated as we can to change Susan Street. So we do have the $3 million of the ARP funds that's sitting in there. Should you approve this contract tonight, the $563,000 will be spent from that ARP monies, which will leave you about $2.5 million. Next month, we should find out from the county if we get the $1 million grant that we applied for. We applied for $1 million of TDC funding. The TDC Commission favorably recommended to the Board of County Commissioners, the BOCC, to approve that. It got delayed in getting over to the BOCC for consideration. Otherwise, we would have already had that confirmation today. The word that we hear back from the county, though, is very positive, that the county likes this concept. The TDC committee liked this concept. So that would bring up the total funding to $4 million. And it is a long-term process here, too. So where would we get the other fundings? The next thing we would do is we have worked with Allison Strange and Associates a little bit on trying to get more of a long-term plan and long-term funding commitment out of the county. The county has intimated to us that they want to deal with the TDC money first and then move into more of a long-term commitment of other county monies that could help generate a larger budget for this. And then as well, since we're going to be doing this over a couple of fiscal years, you're going to have other enterprise monies or other special revenue monies like DST, recreation impact fees, and other places that you can draw on to make this a doable project. So it's an incremental piece long term, and then that moves over as well to Sleepy Hollow. So no, we don't have all the financial answers for you, but what we do know is that for the parameters that we have set in place, the monies that we're pretty sure that we're going to have is a $4 million. We can definitely get a jump start on getting Susan Street changed over to the rectangle fields. So worst case scenario would be the county says King's X, they're not going to give us the $1 million. I don't see that happening. But worst case scenario is no, we don't have that type of funds. I don't think we're going to abandon this concept because the county says no, would be my reading of this body. And I see that this body has the Susan Sleepy concept as a priority in capital improvements. So then we would look to do a smaller scale of what rectangle field improvements we make at Susan Street. And it's all necessitated by we're really at the phase to where if you want to wait to see if we get the county grant, you can approve the half contract next month, or you can approve it this month, and we kind of keep rolling. Again, I don't anticipate that we'll be spending a lot of this money in the next 30 days. And in fact, probably what we would spend in the next 30 days is money that you would probably spend whether you get the county money or not, because I think in some sort of fashion or another, this body's going to say, we've got $3 million allocated towards this project. And so, and we've also worked with half, kind of in an incremental fashion. You know, we've got 6 things, we've got 6 things on the design staff that we want you to do. That cost us $563. And as we move into this with funding, we can always start either bringing back the design, which then we should be getting credit. So we've got ways to manage this expenditure. But the big purpose on this tonight is that's the full design contract for Susan, not Sleepy Hollow. We're at a stage to where we need to do some type of design so we can start getting budget parameters put in place and planning for this summer when we get into fiscal year 24 and looking for other revenue sources. Also helping with our contract with Allison Strange, who'll be helping us with a long-term discussions with the county on additional funding beyond the TDC money. So again, we'd recommend that you approve it tonight for the amount, and work within the parameters of approval and funding should the plan not go as according to plan.
Yeah, and I'd also point out that there were 7 bids on doing the design. So half was bid number one. So we are.
Yeah, and then the only rule of thumb I'd go back to as well, and I left this out, was typically engineering fees you want around 10% of your project. So we anticipate that the core project of Susan Street is about a $5 million project. That does the list that's in your agenda transmittal, those 6 things. So $500,000 to design, $5 million worth of projects is a reasonable number. And we beat up half pretty good during the negotiation phase of the RFP.
Other comment?
I would just add, we've been talking about this project for years, and it's nice to see it come to fruition. The cost numbers always seem to go up on me, just like the swimming pool went up on me. But we need to get this thing going. And if the county doesn't give us some money, we'll just find ways to tweak it or delay it a little bit. But I'll support it.
Public comment?
Good evening, Dr. Jasper. I want to give my same sentiments, and I concur with Al and also Commissioner Peterson. We just need to move forward. I think long-term, this would be a great benefit for the city, like you were talking about, from a capital improvement standpoint, and also, too, from a sports marketing standpoint, working with Allison. I think we're just going to benefit overall long-term, and this is going to be a gradual progression moving forward. So I think it's best that we move forward on this project. Thank you.
Other public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Eastman? Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Would someone please introduce Resolution 5C1?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, providing funding for the facade, sign, and landscape grant program for a project located within the city limits of Leesburg and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion?
I pulled it, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, that this was going to come up 5 or 6 times tonight. I'm not going to go back through what I've already spoke about, but I pulled it for an individual vote, and I still stand by what I had said earlier.
Any other comment? I would just remind everybody, we denied this resolution the end of last year, and I would just like to refer to Commissioner Roebuck's statement as to a feeling he had that I agreed with. And he stated that this item, he pulled this item because it is a nonprofit, and nonprofit organizations should not be submitting FSL grant applications. It has nothing to do with Faith World Church or the project, but these grants are funded by the CRA with the idea that it increases the taxable value of the CRA to benefit the city. He's always felt that non-for-profits should not be eligible for CRA grants because they do not pay taxes. So he was voting no, and that's why. And that's my position.
And I'm going to make an exception for a church because of all the good that this church and other churches do in our community.
May I make a comment as well? I'm looking through the previous years. I see that there were other churches that were granted this as well. One church?
That's correct, Commissioner Berry. There was one church that was granted. I can't remember which one it was. I believe it was in the Carver Heights CRA. And I want to say that after the commission awarded that grant is when former Commissioner Roebuck's comments came, and we hadn't really considered churches again until the first application of the Faith World Church.
I think it says
FSL grant.
2019, 2020. Does that sound right? Okay.
But also, is my microphone working? Okay. But for clarification, that's why this is funded through the general fund, not through the CRA, which was Dan's position. Is that correct?
No, my recollection, and let me just clarify, and I'll be super quick. Former Commissioner Roebuck's position was on any of the funds. I don't think Commissioner Roebuck wanted to provide these funds to any not-for-profit or church, period. Now, just for a matter of information, that when the city created the FSL program, it was to enhance the commercial districts. Each of the commercial districts is delineated through our CRAs, but we have some gaps in that. So we have the Carver Heights CRA, the 441 CRA, and the downtown CRA. So by name, you know the corridors that those cover. Faith World is on West Main in a gap that's not in any of those 3 CRAs. But when we created this, we said that the 3 CRAs and the general fund were funds that were identified as payable to the program. And we've probably had 2 or 3 general fund grants that we've issued. Faith World, should you issue it tonight, would mark the 2nd or 3rd from the general fund. So that it's not an abnormality on that respect. We've used the general fund to do it before, and that was not the root of former Commissioner Roebuck's comments.
Thank you for clarification, because I didn't mean to put words in former Commissioner Roebuck's statements.
I believe this grant was to beautify the district, and I think this is what this grant was designed for, and I think that the applicant meets that.
Any other discussion? Public discussion.
Mayor, commissioners, and of course my favorite, Miss Andy. Good to see you all again. I am a member of Faith World, and Faith World is a wonderful congregation. It's been in the city of Leesburg since 1964, so they've been here for some time. Has a congregation of 200 members, and about 20 years ago, the church bought the old grocery store that was on West Main Street, Benton Dent. And if you'll remember back some time ago when it was there for the Leesburg people, it was quite an eyesore, and it was in bad shape. We spent about $1 million back then doing renovations and resurfacing the parking lot, and we've just continued to do everything we can to enhance that piece of value, that property, and also to help, the West Main Street corridor. Our church is like, I would believe, every other church is. We do a lot in the community. For example, we have a food pantry that feeds 240 families a week that do not belong to our congregation. We have men's groups. We have a RAM men's group that goes out into the community, and they repair homes for single mothers and elderly that are not members of our community, just as a way of trying to be good stewards that God put us to be on the earth. And I could go on like every congregation. We try to do a lot in our community, and the reason I point that out is because tax dollars don't fund those things that we do. The congregation does. So we're trying to do our part. Obviously, for us, we would love to do our part to get a new sign. As this grant was created, was to enhance that and to get all the signs in the community into conformality. And so we wanted to fall in line with that, and we obviously have our portion of this that we have to pay as well. And so we've been raising money so that we could pay our part to get the new sign. For me, now I'm going to switch. Forget that I was a member of Faith World for just a second, and let me switch to my 8 years sitting in that seat as a commissioner here and a mayor. When we put this grant into place, there are no restrictions. We didn't put this in here and say nonprofits can't have it. We didn't put this in here and say churches can't qualify for it. And so our church has met every standard that the city of Leesburg put into place with this sign grant. We meet it. And so when you say, I'm not going to let you have it because you are a church or you are a nonprofit, that's bias. Your own rules don't say we can't have it. We qualify. We have earned the right to have it, just like anybody else. So for me, Commissioner Roebuck, yes. Man, they're a great company, huge in this city and in this county, have hundreds of employees. They do billions of dollars in business they advertise, and you'll fork out a sign for them, but you won't fork out for a church. So for me as a previous commissioner, not speaking on behalf of the church, that bothers me. We've been here since 1964. If a barbershop opens up tomorrow and says, I think I'm going to try to see if I can run a business for a little while, you'll do it for a barbershop that just got in town. We own our property. I know a lot of nonprofits are in city-owned buildings. They don't own the building, but the city does. I get things, but we own our property, and we've done nothing but try. So I'm asking you respectfully to honor the grant that we put in place back then and to grant the Faith World their grant that they have qualified for. We went through all your building department. We went through every branch. We have everything set. We've ordered the sign because we were told by every office of the city of Leesburg that we met the qualifications to go forward. So we've exposed ourselves, if you will, out there and ordered the sign, and now we're just trying to make sure that you guys can do it. I'd appreciate your consideration when you do this and ask for your vote to say yes. Thank you so much.
Question, Dr. Jasper, one quick time. How much is the application for the sign? Well, how much money are they asking for?
The full 20 grand.
20 grand? Okay.
Mayor, ask one thing off that. Al, how much money is in that grant box available?
Do you know that? It was 50. Oh, no, it's a general fund. It's a general fund grant. So this is
But the money that's been earmarked for it, at one time we had a lot of money in there.
No, not in the general fund. We've just gone general fund sign by sign.
So it wasn't, we didn't put something in the sign grant for
not
that
on the general fund. On the other
CRAs?
In the other CRAs, it's been about like $100,000 a year.
Okay.
Like every other year. The general fund, we've just taken it as it comes because the 20 grand's not going to break the general fund if you award it.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Any other public comment? Please.
Hi, my name is Alexis Worski. I live at 10550 Holloway Drive in Leesburg, and I only have a comment as far as the funding to support church-based plans. There's this government, the states are based on a premise of separation of state and religion and church, and I think that crosses the line. If a church wants a sign, I think they should pay for their sign. I don't, even if there's a fund available, a grant available, the difference between a barbershop and a church is that a church espouses a religious belief, and that's separate in this country. You know, the government has put that provision in for a reason, and I think we should follow it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners. I'm not a member of Faith World, but I'm a pastor in the city. I was here when we voted for Mount Calvary Baptist Church. Commissioner Roebuck was here as well, and we disagreed. The reason we disagreed is simply the church is made up of members of our city that pay taxes. They own their own home. They go to our churches. We have business owners in our church, and they pay taxes. They make up our church that provides for our city. I think $20,000 for a sign to beautify, which is the grant purpose, to beautify West Main Street and our quarters for our city. I think we'll be remiss if we alienate churches because they are nonprofits. Many of our church members are great citizens of our city. They pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. Imagine for one moment, I think Jay Hurley said it, if you open up a barbershop downtown on our quarter, you may not be successful. Our churches, many have been here for many years. We voted and we approved Mount Calvary Baptist Church on the premise that church is right on the boulevard and it makes our city look better. Point blank, that's what the grant is purpose for, to improve our quarters. Let's not alienate churches because they don't pay taxes, because the members of those churches pay multiple thousands of dollars in taxes. So just remember, we're here to beautify Leesburg, and let's not alienate churches particularly churches, because I think we do a great job at making our city better. Whenever there's an issue, you call the church. You want us to have a community meeting, calm the city down, pray for everybody. We don't have a problem separating church and state then. We need the church. We want the church to be in our city. So I think this is just something that Faith World has asked for. I think you should do it. So I think just consider your Main Street quarter needs to have a nice sign on West Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? I just have one comment. I would make, just like read into the record, in the application, item number 3 does say applicants are reminded the grant awards made are discretionary in nature and should not be considered an entitlement by the applicant. So just as Jay says, he met all the criteria. We can use our discretion. It is my opinion that these awards should not be used in institutional, in non-for-profit, or in churches. And it's strictly based on the tax revenue coming back to the city. So I'll leave it there. Any other comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson? Yes. Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
No. All right, so let me get back to. Okay, someone please introduce Resolution 5C6.
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Oh, did we do? Skip 3.
Did you want 3?
Do we have it?
Oh, yeah, he did want 3.
Okay, I didn't circle 3, sorry. That would be 5C3, excuse me.
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, accepting a right-of-way deed to the City of Leesburg from Strata Development, LLC, for the purpose of dedicating all roadways located within Bradford Ridge as described therein and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I noticed in the agenda memo that we're going to have a maintenance bond of 2 years on this once we accept it, but the bond was issued on 1/18/22, so we're really only going to get about a 10 months maintenance bond on this. My recommendation is if we accept this, that we ask that they redo their maintenance bond to give us the full 2 years.
I'm looking at the city manager. Is that correct?
Commissioner Connell's interpretation of the maintenance bond is correct. The reason for that is this long story, and I'll be as brief as possible. I know we got a long night, but I think it's important to have all the information. I won't do that anymore. But for years, the city policy when we did new annexations and new subdivisions was not to accept roads and stormwater improvements and these type of things. As market conditions changed, due to COVID and inflation and all these other things, the developers started coming back to the city with the concern that, hey, this dedication practice is not a good one for development. And we've had this, the former commissioners had this discussion and started to change that policy whereby we would accept dedication of these types of roads. And in so doing, 2 things would occur. 1, the developments would need to be built to a city standard that we inspected during construction and after construction. And by the time CO was issued, the city would have been part of that process. And 2, they provide a 2-year maintenance bond. So we had this conversation publicly, probably about the time that before they submitted that bond. And so when the commission said, okay, we'll accept this dedication, we went to work on putting the dedication stuff together, and it appeared that the city was going to accept that. Paquette issued was it Paquette that issued the maintenance bond? Paquette, Patco gave us the maintenance bond, and it's taken us about a year to weave through all the mire of figuring out how we go from from a subdivision that was approved and not with dedicated improvements to getting all the right-of-ways and all these things dedicated to the city and changing the plat. And blah, 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 blah. And so while that's been going on, the maintenance bond had been issued to the city. So you're at a crossroads, I think. So crossroad number one would be A, if you don't want the city to move forward in this type of policy whereby we're going to start accepting road dedications. It'd be good to know that kind of now, and then that way when the Planning and Zoning Department starts doing their PUDs, that the old language goes back in there. Now, mind you, the old language was the city may accept dedication. And so for years, the developers accepted may as a, okay, we'll take that on. Lake Denham Estates is probably the classic example where that got constructed. We did not inspect that when that was constructed because we weren't going to take it over. And there's been issues with Lake Denham Estates, and so we've worked the best. And so part of the philosophy behind taking this is, one way or another, this problem of road maintenance is going to land on our lap, whether it's an HOA issue or whether it's a dedication issue. And so, the roost is going to come nest in our house with having to fix streets, so we might as well do it right from the get-go. That's part of our job as a municipal corporation. So the commission said, okay, we need to start taking on these road dedications. We changed public works staff to around so that now we're involved on the front end with inspections. We went back to PATCO and said, you need to make these specific improvements to Bradford Ridge before we take this. PATCO did, and when they did that, that's when we got the maintenance bond. So, A, if we don't want to go down this maintenance road acceptance process, let us know now, and then we need to get the word out. B1, I feel comfortable with accepting the maintenance bond like this because, in all reason, it took us too long to get this home, and B, the road was built to spec. So I feel comfortable that we won't have to deal with this for 15 or 20 years, which is typical lifespan of a road. Should you not agree with me, then B2 would be to put an amendment onto the resolution, because the motion on the floor is acceptance of the resolution. So if you want to change that and say you need to provide the new 2-year maintenance bond, then you would need an amendment to that motion. And then for us to, and if that motion is approved, then you vote on the motion. Then PATCO would need to provide us another maintenance bond if you modify it. But I would go with option B1, which is to accept where this is at. So a lot of this time span was on us, and we feel comfortable that the street that you're accepting through this dedication, it meets our specs. And I don't anticipate that we'll have this timing issue in the future.
Any other comments? Public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Would someone please introduce Resolution 5C6?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving the West Leesburg Community Development Corporation's American Recovery Plan, request approval/spending plan, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I pulled this item. I had discussion with Al today on this. Not saying I'm opposed to the program, but I think anytime the money's spent on purchases, it should come back to commission for approval and not just land on Al's desk for approval or disapproval.
Any other comment?
I have some questions and concerns for this as well. First and foremost, I've received and read through all of the information that was submitted, and Leesburg is developing, and I think homes are coming. And I just don't understand how the West Leesburg CDC would become a landlord. And if you could just explain or give some more questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fred Griffin Jr., and I'm the president of West Leesburg CDC. Basically, over the last 2 years, when you all approved the particular fundings for West Leesburg CDC, we have been at a standstill. Not only that, but we are receiving numerous of phone calls of housing. What are we doing with the funding? Can they have funding for the utility bills? So things of that nature. So basically, back to your question, is investors came in West Leesburg area and they bought a lot of homes. And one young lady in particular stated that they wanted to charge her over $2,000 just to rent a home and or to purchase that home at a higher market rate. So what West Leesburg did is took that in consideration and said, hey, we need to buy back our community and let the investors stay out, because what's going to happen is no one's not going to rent the homes, no one's not going to purchase the homes. So why not utilize the funds that was given to us to make this happen for our residents? And remember, you all were voted in by our voters. So we're doing our voters a disgrace if we do not utilize the appropriate fundings to do what's necessary for our residents. So that's why I'm here to present to you all, and I sent it over to Al as well to let him know that we're listening to the residents, and this is what they're saying. We also have an upcoming meeting for our community, and they're going to voice their concerns as well. But it's looking like West Leesburg CDC is the bad guys, and we're not the bad guys. We're trying to do everything possible to make things work within the community. But when we have different projects that comes up before you all and they're being denied, then it comes back to us as the bad guys.
I understand the concern, and I just would like to speak frankly. This is my community as well, and I am really hoping that we could come to an understanding or willingness to understand. I would like to focus on not being providing homes for rental, but providing homes for new homeowners. And in some form or fashion, there should be a need. And I understand that housing is an issue all over Leesburg, and we are developing, and it's coming. It's just to have a practice in which we would provide or introduce becoming a homeowner instead of being a renter. I'm concerned about the expenses. I'm concerned about, be honest, our landlord would just be as good as your renter. So if you didn't get a good renter, then we have a whole nother issues. I think that as a new commissioner coming on board, as well as West Leesburg, a new board, a committee, if we could possibly share and meet, and I promise I would be willing and available within 30 days for you to hear my goals and what the plans are for the District 1, and if I could hear your plans and direction for District 1, and we can come and align with our vision. And then if we could possibly table this until at that time. The money is there. It's been, like you said, 2 years sitting, so 30 more days, I don't think it would cause too big of a deal. I know the concern, and I think if we just start doing this rental process for one house and then a possibility for another house in which projected, I don't think that we're doing ourselves any justice. I don't think that's a smart investment for now when we're concerned about the blight. We're concerned about safety. We're concerned about developing a residential area that would be inviting for anyone to come in, a rental or a purchaser, a buyer. So I hear you. I understand. I read through it. I have several questions, and if we would be willing, or if we could do that, far as table it until we meet as commissioner. May I?
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, would I make a motion that we table this until both West Leesburg CDC and the City Commissioner for District 1 meet and discuss in further detail?
Do we need a date certain for that grant? Would that be a...
No, sir. The date certain issue we can address another time, but moving forward, the better procedure is going to be to re-advertise even if we continue to a date certain.
Okay. So there's a motion to table the item.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
Discussion? Any public discussion on that?
No, I just wanted to also include that in the proposal, we did put in there that the housing and or house will be seen by a property management company. They will oversee, and they're very familiar with the city of Leesburg. They stated to me that they are very aware on what's going on in the community as well. But like I stated, it will be very critical for the residents of West Leesburg CDC to not see things being fulfilled in their communities. And we're going to continue to get the phone calls until we get it under control. I know the funds has been sitting there. You're absolutely correct. We have a contract that's out there already that's basically ready to close. But we went ahead and did what we needed to do by presenting. I think it was fair enough to follow the guidelines of that grant agreement by coming before the commissioner and commissioners to get this approved. So once again, we are going to be out of funds, out of our general funds, which once again, we're doing a lot for the community that we're not getting revenue back into our pockets. So we're doing a lot of donations. We're doing a lot of back to school. We're doing a lot of feed the hungries. We're doing a lot of things that's not getting back into our general revenues. So that's basically all I have, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to table the item. Any other discussion?
I'd like to see any ARP money or any funding like that come back before the commission for approval as well.
And may I add something as well for West Leesburg CDC? I know the hard work that has been given and that's done, and I know the much time that's been sacrificed. However, I am all in support of providing homes for the community. I just feel that we should discuss further of making cleaning up the development first. I mean, cleaning up the community for our safety, far as providing aesthetics throughout the community to make it inviting for someone to come and would want to rent. Again, I'm still stressing that issue, but I am more than willing and ready to work with the West Leesburg CDC, and I think this would be a great move once we meet and discuss and then come back and present a plan to the commission. Excuse me, another plan, not to say that this wasn't a plan, excuse me,
Right.
another plan.
Well, with that being said, and taking that in consideration, the monies that has been spent out this far, will we be reimbursed from the CRA and or from this particular funding? Because like I stated, we have done everything that we were supposed to have done to get this far, and it did not come free. So that's something to take in consideration as well.
Can you expand on that just a little bit?
Yes, sir. I'm
just curious how you spent the money.
Yes, sir. We had to get an inspector to come out. That cost we have invoices as well. We had to do earnest money, and now we have missed that deadline to back out. So that money is not going to be returned, and other things that we had to do as well.
How many homes are you talking about, and how much of that 750 was being earmarked for rental homes?
Yes, sir. On this particular plan, it was asked for $200K.
Okay.
With the spending plan in particular, we said right at 200, if not 220, because we don't know what was going to be with the closing costs. But it was just a give or take of around ballpark, which left us about 535. 50 left in our budget to still play around with. So we have not moved on numerous of homes. It was just this home in particular. And with upcoming projects, we're just on phase one. And I have laid out a strategy plan with our board that we're going to be up to at least 6 or 7 phases. So we're just one. So you all going to see me every time I get a chance to come up here. So that's why I presented to Mr. Al that way, so we don't have to keep coming back. And I presented that plan to you all.
So just for some staff feedback, because the question keeps coming up, and about coming back to whether it comes back to the commission or the project itself. So just some history on the issuance of the $750,000. When the ARP money was initially awarded, the commission broke up up the funds into different pots. In this regard, I think it's important to go back and revisit the specific two issues. $750,000 was allocated for the Leesburg CDC, and $750,000 was allocated for the West Leesburg CDC. Upon that action, the Leesburg CDC immediately submitted a spend plan that was very familiar with the City Commission at the time, that went back and did other affordable housing type projects in the snow apartment complexes, and the Leesburg CDC kind of submitted a step-by-step spend down plan of how of properties they were going to purchase, then properties they're going to refurbish, and they presented that to you in a plan. And even though the first expenditure was only a couple $100,000, the commission approved that plan, and because they clearly understood where it was headed, they gave me the authority to go ahead and issue the approval checks as the CDC, as the Leesburg CDC went through and accomplished the goals of the overall plan that the commission approved. The Leesburg CDC has been issued their $750,000. About the same time, the West Leesburg CDC submitted a plan to me of expenditures. And when the request of $750,000 was earmarked for the West Leesburg CDC, equivalent to the Leesburg CDC, the West Leesburg CDC submitted a spend plan to me, which didn't make it to the commission. It stopped at my desk because the submission of the plan was about $1.5 million. So I felt like if I provided you a spend plan of $1.5 million after you've awarded the $750,000 spend plan, y'all wouldn't have taken too kindly to that, because the response from this body, I assumed, would have been, why'd you give us a $1.5 million plan? We cut out $750 for you. So I went back and asked for clarification from the West Leesburg CDC on that. So you never saw that plan. That stopped at my desk. And so there's probably some frustration with the West Leesburg CDC that it didn't pass me. Subsequent to that, I spoke with the chairperson of the time. I even had another meeting with the West Leesburg CDC twice. And my suggestion to the West Leesburg CDC was to develop a plan that kind of coincides with the improvements that we were trying to do with the Carver Heights CRA, so that this body would have comfort in that there was a unified spend plan between the CRA money and the West Leesburg CDC money, so that Carver Heights would benefit, and not that this plan wouldn't, but that this body would have comfort in that there wasn't duplication of projects, that all the funds were being leveraged to get maximum improvement of addressing blight and affecting those who were affected by COVID the most. And if you go back and look at the CDC, or you go back and look at the ARP money, we were issued $11.5 million, 11.8 or whatever that number was, and $7.5 million of that, over half of the money, was allocated to benefit projects or groups in the minority community, therefore spending the money in an appropriate way, using the ARP monies for blight and addressing the issues that affect minorities the most, because minority community was affected the most by COVID. That was one of the founding principles of the ARP money. So in those discussions with West Leesburg CDC, there's some change in leadership there. Mr. Griffin was appointed or elected the president or chairperson, or Fred, I'm sorry, man, I don't remember your title. But those were the conversations we had. At this stage, they submitted the spend plan for what I dubbed senior housing, and I saw it as I understood the plan as Fred wrote it up, or Mr. Griffin wrote it up, but also thought there's a little bit of piecemeal in there as far as continued coming back to the commission to approve the same concept. So for clarification, I was the one who put in the agenda package that you grant the city manager the authority to approve expenditures. I had a discussion on the phone with Mr. Griffin about that. And so just for clarity, because I in reviewing the materials for the Leesburg CDC, I'm always just referred to them henceforth as CDC from now on, unless we get into Leesburg CDC stuff. But so with the CDC, my clarification purposes was, is this the plan that you're going to? You're going to buy houses in the Carver Heights area, roughly, with the ARP money, and they had one house under contract. We probably can say what it is, but unless we're pushed on that, I'll keep that private unless I'm pushed. But it was the contract was for $200,000, and so my assumption was, Mr. Griffin, is your next, but you're going to be identifying these houses, and then you're going to put the houses into an inventory stock that the CDC would own, and you're going to use this ARP monies so that you can then offer subsidized rents for low to moderate income folks who are seniors. Yes. Okay, so every so often you're going to send me a contract as you get them for a house that you've identified, and yes. So it's like, why don't you then I'm going to put in this request that the plan from the Leesburg CDC is to buy housing stock with the ARP money up to $750,000. The first one is the one that they currently have under contract, and as long as they do that, then you know that they're probably going to get somewhere around 3 houses for $750,000, as they have one under contract for $200,000. Maybe they get up to 4, depending on prices. But each of those would come to me, and then I would approve that based on the overall concept. Should you have approved that this evening? So that's why it was written in that manner, because I assume you'd get another house for $200,000, another house for $200,000, and instead of having this conversation every time, you just approve it, because that's how we did it with Leesburg CDC. That's why it was framed the way it was. So there's a motion on the table by Commissioner Berry to have some more conversations with Leesburg CDC. I think, as Commissioner Berry said this evening, there's some other concepts that she would like to discuss with the Leesburg CDC with regard to safety, with regard to beautification. On your agenda as well for March 13th is a concept to review some of the expenditure plans with the Carver Heights CRA. So you'll be meeting in your CRA capacity with the other 2 CRA meetings next month. So I think that this is maybe not a nix of the Leesburg CDC proposal, but certainly Commissioner Berry's asked for it to be tabled so we can have some more meetings. So that's how I understand how the concept's flown. And that would be the staff report.
I have another question, and based on what I'm hearing from Leesburg CDC, the money that is out, is it possible, I know we have a motion on the table, this is just further discussion, is it possible that they could be refunded or given something back towards to not be out totally?
Okay, so what I understand is you have an existing sale contract where you made a $1,000 deposit, and if you don't close on that, you're out the $1,000?
Yes.
What's your closing date?
March the 3rd.
And was there an out that if you don't give them time, you lose that?
Yes. And also including the inspection that went forth and other things that's coming up actually this week. But it was once again based upon approval. So we were following the guidelines on the agreement that was put forth with the grant funding.
My suggestion at that level, if the commission, if that falls through, I would ask that you have Grant review that contract just to make sure that Grant agrees. No disrespect, but just to make sure Grant agrees. My guess is I did review the contract, but I'm not a lawyer. But it was the standard Florida real estate contract. So my guess is contingent upon their funding, and if they don't have funding approved, my guess would be that they would get that deposit money back. If there's a different clause in there, as Mr. Griffin's alluded to, let Grant look at that. And if that so be the case, then I would, if the commission wants to hold Leesburg CDC within my spending authority, I can find $1,000 to help out the Leesburg CDC, and spending $1,000 to have them whole on this while we're in discussions on trying to figure out how to spend a lot more money in more unison. That's not a bad expenditure, and that helps the Leesburg CDC out. So just by consensus and the nod of the heads around the table, that's, you have a vote on the motion to table, and assuming that vote passes, I'll get with Grant, and if Grant agrees we'll help the West Leesburg CDC, and either A, we'll help them get the deposit money back, or B, we'll find a hole for $1,000 to keep them whole, if the motion to table passes.
And I'd like to make a couple comments before we vote on the motion. We gave the $750 to the CDC, and I don't want to be involved in decision making. I want the CDC. I want it just like it is, the CDC to make their decisions. I'm okay with Al approving it. Commissioner Berry, it's her district, so I was trying to respect her wishes of stalling it for 30 days. I would not support canceling this contract. I mean, if you want to spend $200,000 on a house, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Personally, I say close on it if it works for you, and you still have $550,000 to work with. Meet with Commissioner Berry. Even I did it now, y'all can work through it. But I'm not going to micromanage the CDC, and I'm going to vote to let Al make the decisions on it. We don't need to spend 30 minutes every meeting talking about the West Leesburg CDC.
One more comment, may I please add, and I would like to be clear. I agree totally with you. I think it is the decision of West Leesburg CDC. I think they are capable and they are able to handle, as well as that is my district, as well as where I live, and I am concerned as well. As a new commissioner, I repeat, I would like to be able to share and have the time to discuss with them in detail of exactly their vision and my vision. Thank you.
We have public comment.
Yes, I'm Pastor Darrell Reeves of Mount Airy Metropolitan, 1108 East Main Street. It is a high topic amongst our congregation, amongst a lot of the churches, what's going on West. And we really like to be a part of what that discussion is, because we're concerned about a piecemeal process that has taken 2 years to be developed, and we have real issues. And we want the kind of development that will create a better community other than a patchwork project where you buy a house here and then you rent it out, and a house there and you rent it out. $750,000 can do a really lot of good if spent in the right direction. So if it's possible, we'd like to be a part of those discussions as well. Thank you.
Mary Tucker, I'm the Vice President for the West Leesburg CDC. I can take care, thank you. And so when you speak of the needs for the community, and I have no problem meeting with you to discuss any questions. However, to put a hold on what the process to address your concerns and your thoughts, then bring those to them, and the rest and the balance of the money can be used. So yes, there is a lot that can be done in the community. We've seen that over the years, and was very happy to do and receive some monies to do those things. However, a lot of those things that you're addressing were done out of the pockets of many of us in the West Leesburg CDC, because we did not have the funds. So yes, we have plans on doing that. A lot of people that we're concerned about cannot afford a house. And no, we're not talking about just renting it to anybody. Yes, we do have knowledge on how to interview a prospective residents, people to move in, people that are working class to move in. So to address that, your concern or your thoughts and the rest of them is what my comment is.
Any other public comment? Any other commission comment? Okay, so we have a motion on the table to delay this until you have an opportunity to meet with the West Leesburg CDC. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's right.
That's the motion. Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
No.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell, here's Mayor Burry.
Yes. Okay, so now we're on the second meetings. You ready?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
No, you're okay. Okay, we'll now move on to the second reading of ordinances. As we stated earlier, item 6A1 will not be discussed tonight if anybody came in late. It'll be moved and re-advertised for March the 13th. At this point, we will introduce, would somebody please introduce 6A2, 3, and 4?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
6A2, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 55 plus minus acres and being generally located west of County Road 44 and south of East Treasure Island Avenue, lying in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 5 and providing an effective date. 6A3, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 55 plus minus acres from Lake County Rural Transition to City of Leesburg Estate Residential for a property generally located west of County Road 44 and south of East Treasure Island Avenue, lying in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A4, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 55 plus minus acres from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow a single-family residential subdivision for property generally located west of County Road 44 and south of East Treasure Island Avenue, lying in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Go ahead. Second.
I got a question.
Okay, hang on one second. Items 3 and 4 are quasi-judicial public hearing items. So I'll ask Grant if there's going to be testimony to swear.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. If all city staff and members of the audience would please stand. Applicant, anybody that plans to present any testimony, please stand and raise your right hand so we can swear you in.
Great.
All right, got everybody? All right, do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And I would just let the record reflect. Is everyone standing? Mr. Mayor had announced for items 6A3 and 6A4. Were there any members of the audience standing for any other items? Or was it just this? Yeah, so we'll just go ahead and swear everybody in for the whole agenda for the entire second reading of ordinances. So if you weren't already sworn in, if you would please stand, raise your right hand, we'll get you sworn in. You swear? All right. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to mention something before we get too far into this. We've been through this already once, and it was turned down, I believe, by the Planning Commission. My understanding what's being proposed tonight is a redo of modifications of what was originally turned down, but it did not go back to the Planning Commission for their review and recommendation. My understanding it didn't have to, but I would like to just see us not even entertain this tonight, send this back, the redo back to the Planning Commission, let them re-review it and come back with their recommendations before we get into this. I mean, we have a Planning Commission for a reason. They turned it down. It's been revised, and I'd like to send it back to them for their review and their recommendation before we heard this.
Okay, I understand your concerns. Dan, can you elaborate on that? going back to the Planning Commission?
It was turned down by the Planning Commission. It was based on mainly on traffic concerns and density, things like that, the standard things that you'll get. In terms of procedure, I don't know that there's any reason why we could not do that, Mr. City Attorney, or that any reason that we have to. It's
I think that if the commission would like to send this back to planning and zoning and get their input on the redesigned plan, that would be something that this body could do if you wanted to do that.
Just for communication to the public, because there's a lot of public here, and everybody's mind is, well, why didn't it go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission? Because of the way this unfolded. So it went to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission denied it. It came to this body on first reading, and it was voted down 2-3. One of the members, who was the 3, preserved that right to bring it back at the next meeting. So therefore, when it came back to you the next meeting, that set up this date. That's why it didn't go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So there was a little parliamentary hook in there that brought it back. Okay, just so everybody knows, that's how this is back tonight. It's back here properly, it's back here procedurally, and it's back here with due diligence and all legal advertisements done. And in that process, the petitioner modified the plan.
That's why I believe it should go back to our planning commission for their review of the modified plan and then make a recommendation back to us before we hear this.
And I respectfully disagree, and I'm ready to move forward on it tonight.
As much as I don't want to postpone it, when I was on the airport board, I respected the commissioners for postponing things and bringing it back to us. So I would be in favor of that.
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this, send it back to the Planning Commission for their review and their recommendation.
Second.
Discussion on that motion? You've already
made my opinion known.
I'm in agreement.
I'd just like to also point out we do have 3 items that were read, so we would need separate motions on each specific item.
I'm going to assume that the motion from the commissioners for all 3 items, does that work for you, Grant?
In a sense, the cleanest way would be to do separate motions for each one and separate votes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, annexations come directly to this board and are not heard by the Planning Commission, so it would be for the large-scale comp plan and for the rezoning if that's the direction you choose to go.
So this one you would, so if you, Commissioner, if you wanted to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the annexation one, I would suggest that you table.
Correct.
And then the next 2 is the.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do table.
Well, you could annex it and then do nothing, but you don't want to do that.
So your motion is for the annexation to table that specifically? Because if we table it, we can't hear the second 2 items because it's not in the city yet. We can't change a comp plan without it. Is that correct, Grant?
Yeah. I think that you could. I think that you could table the annexation and still send the other items back to planning and zoning, and then bring them all back at the same time. So if you want to table annexation, I think it's still appropriate. Again, they weren't annexed before it went to planning and zoning the first time.
Correct.
That was not before the commission, before they went to planning and zoning the first time. So I think that it would be okay to table annexation and then still send the other 2 items back to planning and zoning.
Okay, then I'll amend the motion to table the annexation and send the other 2 motions back to the Planning Commission for their review and recommendation.
Do we have a second? Is that amended?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call on the amended motion.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
No.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
No. Okay.
We still needed to do the other two items.
Okay, so we need to introduce and then make a motion for, we've already
For
been
review by-
introduced, but we need a motion to table those items.
Pending review by Planning Commission.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we tabled the pending two items, waiting on Planning Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
No. No.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes.
And we'll just re-advertise everything accordingly, and we're just saying that because there's a new law that says you can't table these type of matters to a date.
A new interpretation of the
New
law. Yes, sir.
interpretation. There you go. Makes it even better.
We still need to do item 6A4. We need a motion for that one as well.
Can we have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion that we table
6A4.
6A4 pending a review and recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson,
No.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
No.
So we're done there?
Point, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
So if we send it back to the Planning Commission, then the staff will need to re-advertise, resend out letters, repost, do everything.
Do you have to advertise for P&Z too, Dan?
Yes, sir. We have
Yeah.
to advertise for P&Z,
So
and we do the SPO letters, and we do, and I want to make sure that everyone here can hear
Yeah.
that they'll be, within the 200 feet, you'll be getting the same letter again for the new date, and the sign will be posted, advertisement, everything.
yeah, the only thing I guess would be different, would we need to resubmit this to DOE? Is this a start of a new process by doing this?
Yeah. We would need to resubmit.
It would create a new 6-month time period from first reading to second, I believe, in the
Yes.
DEO procedures.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that would take some.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
Okay.
So I think, Mr. Miller, just to clarify, we're not certain that it would go back to planning and zoning for March. Is that?
That's what I'm trying to be sure of.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody
because
understands
it
out
would
here.
most likely have to be April at this point.
Okay, so April is the
And
most
it'd be the April Planning
likely
Commission meeting at this
planning
point.
and
Yes, sir.
zoning.
But it will be advertised, so everybody
Yes, sir.
will have that.
Advertised, sign posting, and letters.
Okay.
Hey, and what we'll do too, because this is confusing, and ostensibly we have a 6-month delay. So Dan will get with me tomorrow, and we'll put together a rough schedule of how this will be. So it'll go back to P&Z, then it'll come back to you all on first reading. Then there would be the transmission to DOE, and then there'd be the estimated time of the second reading. So we're probably 6 months out. We'll get that schedule to you. We'll post it on the website and get it out to everybody. So it's basically we re-queued here.
All righty. So let's move on to item 6A, 5, 6, and 7.
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
And 6A5, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 6.93 acres and being generally located south of U.S. Highway 441 and east of Anglers Avenue, as legally described in Section 23, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the city of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 5, and providing an effective date. 6A6, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 6.93 plus minus acres from Lake County urban medium density to City of Leesburg low density for property generally located south of U.S. Highway 441 and east of Anglers Avenue, as legally described in Section 23, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A7, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 6.93 acres from Lake County CP Planned Commercial to City of Leesburg SPUD Small Plan Unit Development to allow for residential development on a property generally located south of U.S. Highway 441 and east of Anglers Avenue as legally described in Section 23, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And I'd just like to remind everybody that you remain under oath. Was anybody not here earlier and did not get sworn in for speaking on these items and wishes to speak on these items? All right, I think we're all good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
All right. So we'll start by hearing a staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Background on this project for Anglers on Harris, small-scale comp plan, plan unit development, zoning, and annexation. The proposed property is located south of 441 and east of Anglers Avenue behind the Goodwill store on 441. It contains approximately 6.93 acres. Again, the request is to annex into the city, change the future land use designation from Lake County urban medium density to City of Leesburg low density, and then change the zoning from Lake County planned commercial to City of Leesburg SPUD, which is small plan unit development. The Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of these cases at the October 22, 2022 meeting. The overall request is 47 single-family attached and detached units for a total. That works out to 27 detached units and 27 attached units. There are design standards for all homes, dark sky lighting, gutters for the houses to appropriately direct the stormwater, 15-foot buffers on east and west sides of the property, standard 35% open space requirement, irrigation controls. There's also 0.9 acres of recreational area that would include weight room, pool, boat docks. I believe that the agenda memo says that the Planning Commission approved at their October 20 meeting, but I believe that should read October 2022. So forgive me for that. And then there were some, in the PC minutes, I think there was some issues where it said the vote was 0-, and it should have been filled in before I picked it up. So we can make those corrections, but the Planning Commission did approve. Public Works Department said that the project will require relocation of wastewater lines and construction of a lift station. Lake County School Board indicated it would generate 16 students. Mr. Ryan Solstice of LPG Mount Dora is here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, sir.
We'll hear from the petition.
Thank you. Ryan Solstice with LPG, representing my client, Lake Harris Acquisitions. I'd like to start tonight by playing a video from the February 14th BOCC Board of County Commissioners meeting where staff gives an overview of this project and provides some recommendations, and a letter was submitted to Leesburg City Commission with those recommendations. And after this video, I will present my project and how that project meets those recommendations by the Board of County Commissioners.
We're back at it. Moving on down to tab 21, discussion direction regarding anglers.
We did request the fire marshal go out and take a look at it because there is only one access way in. It is in that 18 to 20 feet area. The fire marshal did say that it was acceptable, that they could get a fire truck into the area. They mentioned that the mobile home park actually has much narrower roads. They'd be a little more concerned about that. And they did request if there could be a second emergency access right near the Starbucks, so I kind of have circled. They kind of mentioned that that would be something nice. I have the mobile home park, I believe, is not in support probably of having that connection. They might be okay if it's just an emergency connection. So just kind of summarizing all that, putting it together, the Angler's driveway, its access from 441, it is not county maintained. I don't think anyone has direct maintenance over it. It's via, we believe, via 3 different easements that are between 20 and 25 feet long that share access. They are narrow. They're in that 20-foot range. If this was to come in to be a new development with the county, we would want a 50-foot right-of-way in order to make it a county road. So you can kind of see the order of magnitude of the difference there. If it was going to be a county road, we would want 24 feet. Currently, it's 18 to 20. The driveway is currently shared with the mobile home park, so there is FedEx trucks and UPS and garbage trucks and all kinds of things going back there that would be shared. Sometimes they do have to stop to go around, but it is 18 feet. Probably if they were both in their lanes and at the right spot, they probably could make it by, but I know that residents do stop and FedEx do stop as well. And we talked about the fire marshal. So we have prepared a letter that staff could send out, and we prepared a letter that the commission could send out, and Melanie has those drafts of those letters for anybody you want to do. But the recommendations might be that we would want them to widen and repave the driveway, make sure it's in that maybe 22 feet, and make sure that it's repaved. Provide for sidewalks, pedestrian connectivity, both internal to the site as well as up to 441. That the access be improved, to be maintained to the mobile home parks and to the residential housing, and that it is a shared access, and that's made very, very clear. We talked about the secondary access point, whether it would be an emergency access point for fire or it would be a secondary for everyone to use. And also it probably should be defined who's actually going to maintain this in the long term, because currently it's not county maintained, so we don't sure if that would be city maintained.
Thank you. So tonight I'm presenting with you a request to annex this property into the city and to change the future land use from Lake County urban medium, which allows for 7 dwelling units per acre, City of Leesburg low density residential, which allows for 8 dwelling units to acre. In addition, we are also requesting a rezoning from the county planned commercial to small planned unit development. The proposed density on site is 7.58 units per acre on a buildable acreage of 6.2 acres. According to the low-density residential future land use within Leesburg's comprehensive plan, this land use category is generally located in densely urbanized areas. The site itself sits behind the Goodwill and is also in close proximity on that same side of 441 to Steak and Shake, Starbucks, and then right across the street is access to anchor commercial such as Publix and Lake Square Mall. This is a 47-unit condominium complex utilizing single-family home buildings in that typology. The developer is proposing 20 3-story townhomes and 27 2-story bungalows. The development will also have an improved marina, clubhouse, and pool. The estimated price right now for sale, fee simple, of the townhomes is $500,000. The estimated cost for the bungalows on site is $400,000. This site has been designed with a lot of care. At this time, we are proposing a 6-foot stucco and masonry wall on the north side, as well as a 6-foot vinyl fence to the east and west. In addition, a 15-foot buffer along all the perimeter of the property will be utilizing a species of bamboo called MBG from Osceola Farms that in 2 to 3 years will be reaching heights of 35 to 40 feet to provide added protection and privacy to our neighbors. Over 1 acre of the site is currently being utilized for water retention areas. As in our pre-application meeting, St. John's indicated that they did not want a single drop from this site ending up in the lake or abutting neighbor properties. The roads here will be improved. So the east-west portion of the site up here will be improved from its current standing with potholes and being only about 18 feet in diameter. It will be paved to 24 feet. It will have curb and gutter and stormwater that will direct it. That road, which has been utilized by the mobile home park and the single-family resident, will be maintained by the condo association in perpetuity. The fire marshal, as you saw, did indicate that the north-south ingress-egress easement that is not owned or not dedicated to my property owner is adequate for fire protection and emergency services into the development. Utilities. The developer is replacing the old private and sewer and water lines in this current development. The sewer lines run from the old commercial up on 441 through part of the single-family homeowner and then runs west to the other two mobile home parks. That private line on our property will be improved and a lift station will be added to increase flow, and the benefit to the neighbors to the west will be substantial. In addition, the neighbors to our east, the single-family home and the mobile home park will have their water lines on our property improved. And at this time, if you have any questions regarding wetland or mitigation, I have Jessica with Stillwater Environmental with me.
I do have a couple. The access, ingress, egress back to 27, is that all going to be improved all the way back to the highway?
So this access point is actually an easement between the Goodwill, the Take 5, as well as this property owner here. So at this time, no, it will not be improved. There was a recommendation by the county. However, my property owner cannot legally improve that road without them allowing us to make that.
He has an easement for use, but not
Correct.
for improvement. And you know what the width of that easement is?
It is about 21 feet right now. As we saw in the video, it's generally narrower. It's about 18 feet of paved asphalt.
About 18 foot. And how many other residents also use that presently?
The single-family resident, who I believe...
No, the existing ones out there now, not counting your development.
Correct. And then the mobile home park.
How many units that is?
I don't want to misspeak.
48.
48.
Okay, and you want to add 46 is what you're...
47 units.
47. And is there anything in your development that would be considered to be commercial, meaning where I'm going with my question is, that would be attracting additional traffic down there to it other than the residential traffic of the residents there?
No, the marina will remain private. It will be for the sole use of the condominium association and the residents who live there.
Okay.
And I have two facades that I would like to present tonight to allow council to choose from. We hired an architectural firm to give flexibility for council in the design and implementation of this infill development project.
Thank you.
So this first one is of the 10-unit townhomes. You see a cement lap siding that mimics a wood appearance as well as a stone veneer. This is an image of the single-family detached bungalows that would be on site. And then the other option is just a straight stone veneer with the stucco and the dark sky lighting. And it is the same for the bungalows. The townhomes right now, depending on the options, range between 2,000 and 2,600 square feet livable, while the bungalows come in at 1,600 square feet.
questions from the commissioners?
I'm good.
The building height says 2 stories, but you're going 3.
Correct. So the recommendation at Planning and Zoning was to limit the site to 2 stories. At this time, with the small scale comp plan amendment as well as the rezoning to the SPUD, I would request that the 3-story townhomes be considered. In addition, the site will have the bamboo that will be 6 to 9 feet, so I will need an additional request that Commission approve the use of bamboo as a landscaping buffer vegetative product.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the, on the 3-story, what's the overall height?
The height maxes at 35 feet.
Will this be gated?
It will not at this time. Thank you.
Sir, appreciate it. We'll now hear public comment. We do ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. We have a nice little timer here. If you get to going too long, I will speak up. So.
Hi, my name is Alexis Swirsky. I live at 10550 Holloway Drive in Leesburg. I'm one of the mobile home residents currently that live next to this property. And I'm old enough not to try to be delusional about this project. And I think most of the residents in my mobile home are aged, and we fully expect there to be some type of development to be passed. But the question is, what kind of development? This is not an upscale community and cannot be gentrified by doing this development. Mostly it's working class, medium income people with a majority of mobile homes and senior residents. Any design will put the Super Goodwill, the Take 5 Oil Service Center, and Steak and Shake on the frontal area of the development. The developer could put up a 20-foot fence around the property, and these businesses will still be present and viewable when any of these prospective homeowners move in. Upscale residents, if you can afford $500,000, you're not moving to that area. The architectural drawings show a plan for almost 50 multi-story units on approximately 7 acres. They can't fit in all that housing space, plus a recreation center, a pool, cement walkways, garden areas, and whatever else they've put in. Plus, a 50-foot water line setback will not be able to be adhered to. They will simply pay mitigation costs and do as they please, and the environment be damned. The access, when they say that you sometimes have to stop, that's ridiculous. Almost always you have to stop when you're trying to leave on that access road. I've mentioned in the past how ambiguous their design scheme is with both low-end and medium-level building supplies and materials. There's no commitment to the level of quality that they plan to use. Cheap versus cheap fiberboard or real stone. Is this a suggested availability or is this a guaranteed access? Can they change it when they finally start building it? Further, there is no stated occupancy limit on this. How many people are going to be able to fit into a unit that has 3 stories? 2, 4, 6, 10, 12? I live in a 2-bedroom mobile home, and I'm only allowed to have 2 residents in my home. If the council approves the plan, do you really know what you're approving? Because I certainly don't have a clear idea. I suggest the developer resubmit a plan that conforms more to the community. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Robert Harbart. I was in education for 43 years. I'm a 21-year resident of the Hideaway Park in Leesburg. And I don't know if I appreciate being called aged, but there's only one person in the park that's been there longer than I have been. I bought into the community, as I say, 21 years ago because of the beauty of the lake, peaceful, serene area, and we've really enjoyed it. The proposed land usage next door is not comparable or compatible really with our park. The proposed land usage, the density, I think, will change and certainly will not be the same. We only have 44 units in our park, family homes, with 29 having only one person in them. The remaining 15 have 2 persons, and 5 of them don't even have cars. We hope you will protect our beautiful environment in a lakefront area and deny the proposal for change to the zoning ordinance. The intensity of this proposal and the anxiety it's created in our park, they are great. It's important to our residents. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Reness, and I live at 10550 Holloway Drive, Lot 13, the Hideaway Mobile Home Park. My background, education, and then service is in forestry here in Florida. I work for the Florida Department of Ag and Consumer Service. I have over 40 years working in the, in the environmental field. Although there are many issues with this proposal, this plan development proposal, I want to address the removal of their proposal of all the heritage trees on the property. The live oaks, the sable palms. These are large sable palms. That's our state tree. There are also cypress trees of really good size, which aren't even on their list. These heritage trees are irreplaceable. They can't be mitigated by putting in 4-inch trees here or there, or definitely not by non-native bamboo. These trees on the site are homes to eagles, hawks, and so much other wildlife. Their size and impact for the lake environment, it's irreplaceable, and it cannot be mitigated away with newer small trees. Once they are gone, they're gone. I hope you'll look at the trees, the pictures of the trees that our neighbors' children measured, and I hope it will cause you to pause. This is a copy of our Leesburg Code of Ordinances, the tree protection, and Part B, protected trees, the designated protected trees. And it says in this, these trees required approved City of Leesburg to remove trees by permit. And so I just ask that you please follow the code and protect our heritage trees. And on one final note, I wanted to read your mission of the city, or our mission, as being citizens of the city of Leesburg. A diverse community, energetically working in collaboration to ensure that the city of Leesburg upholds its history, ambience, and natural resources to become a strong and vibrant community. I look at the area around the lake as community. It has been traditionally all county, and this is only being made city so that they can mitigate the distance. 50 feet becomes 25 feet, but they want a plan that 25 feet be mitigated out, and they're cutting down all these trees. Where's the wildlife going to go, y'all? Where's the wildlife going to go? Thank you very much, sir. Sir and ma'am, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Thompson. I live at 10550 Holloway Drive, lot number 11. I'm a tenant. I'm the manager of the mobile home park, and I'm the maintenance man of the mobile home park. So I traveled that road. I travel that road more than anyone. Me being the manager, maintenance man, I'm back and forth because we own the Beach Mobile Home Park, which is right next door. The FedEx trucks he were talking about and the UPS trucks, I'm on a golf cart, and I have to pull over to let the guys in. That's how narrow the road is. So I don't see where they're going to have space to widen that road. The traffic we have now, I've probably been almost hit 20 times at the curve where the oil change place is as you're coming into the property. They're proposing, I know there's got to be growth. I'm not saying don't put anything in there, but what they're proposing with this monstrosity, it just doesn't fit with our community. They're going to pin us in back there in the back. We're not going to be able to get in and out, and I'm back again with the wildlife. There is wildlife on there that cannot be replaced. I see it every day. I travel 20 trips back and forth every day. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sam Rarig, and I live at 10550 Holloway Drive, Leesburg. I'm the president of the HOA of Hideaway Mobile Home Park, and I represent our community. No one has ever approached us to talk to us even about this, even though this 3-story, 35 feet monstrosity will be within viewing distance, looking down on us every single day. I've provided each of you with a picture of the parcel under discussion. The actual area that's appropriate for construction is just under 4 acres. The 6.9 acres that the developer quotes contains wetlands and the marina, and the lake is out in front of that. You can see that clearly there. If you look closely, we've cut and pasted the Goodwill store. That's what you'll see that's there. And their parking lot, overlaid it within the parcel, that conversely showing how small the actual building area is. The developer wishes to insert 48 towering 2- and 3-story multifamily units and place a pool in the wetlands at the front of this. The plan's intense for the communities in the surrounding area. The amount of additional cars will be staggering. Our community only has 38 vehicles, 38. The yellow highlighted area that you see, that's on the drawing I've given you, demonstrates the only ingress-egress from that property. That also serves the private residents and our community of 44 single-family homes. We're just east of the parcel. That's one way in and one way out for all of us. In addition, at the end of the narrow, winding entrance, even before you gain entry onto US 441, you have to traverse through a 5-point star-shaped intersection that maintains only 2 stop signs. So 2 people are stopping, 3 people are running through it. The massive amount of traffic generated by the commercial strip in the front, which is parallel to US 441, including a Take 5 oil change, Steak and Shake, and Starbucks, and the aforementioned Goodwill store. Starbucks has its own issues. They have excessive traffic that actually blocks turning north at the light and backs up cars on US 441. Pedestrians as well as bicycles struggle for their share of the road. The intensity of this project would not be compatible or enhance the surrounding area. Just want you to remember, when you choose an action, you choose the consequences of that action. Thanks for your time.
My name is Joanne Cost. I live at 10228 Bumblebee Lane. I'm here on Lake Harris. I'm here for the lake. Lake County has been blessed with many beautiful lakes that provide many sports and so much enjoyment for thousands of residents and visitors. Please help us to preserve that beauty by not allowing overdevelopment of lakefront property. Don't annex it to the city. Please let it stay Lake County. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and staff. My name is Daniel Howard. I live at 10534 Holloway Drive. If we could, please, we could start up on the 11 by 17. Up there at the top, you'll notice that there's the nearest two-story is 1 mile to the west, and that is Lake Harris Cove Apartments. If we go to the east, the nearest two-story is 4.4 miles away, and that's in on the green. From our back porch, if we look out over the lake, there's actually 0 two-story anywhere visible. All right, if we could move down to the picture for a little bit. We're the little R1 residence right there in the middle. I know we've been overlooked a lot. Everybody seems to keep jumping to the mobile home park, which is to the east. So if you'd like, we could start on the right-hand side there, and we'll go over the Hideaway Mobile Home Park. Originally, it was 1960s and 70s design. Currently, 44 units on 6.8 plus or minus acres. Currently, they're single-wide homes. There's single-car driveway. There's single-lane roads throughout this mobile home park. It is a retirement community, 55 plus. There are no setbacks. There are no retention areas. And if you look at the drawing, they have full use of almost the whole 7-acre parcel. If the mobile home park, the Hideaway, was developed with the current county standards, codes, and setbacks and requirements, the park would be approximately 21 to 22 units on almost the full 7 acres. All right, if we could we skip to the left-hand side there? It says the Anglers Prior. Prior to the demolition, there used to be 14 single-story little homes out there. We've only been there 9 years, so we've never seen them occupied. Currently, that's a 6.7-acre parcel. There's a .82 marina. And if you minus the 50-foot setbacks from the water and the county side setbacks, you're left with a 3.76-acre building envelope with the marina and wetlands on the bottom 1/3 of the property. Probably the reason for the unqualified purchase deed and a low price. All right, if we could, you mind shifting over to the 8.5 by 11 before I go over the proposed? I'll try and make this quick. On the property appraiser's website, they have this cool little tool. It calculates area. So you'll see the 3.76-acre parcel in discussion. And we just did a little envelope, and half of the Home Depot parking lot is exactly the same size. If we go down to Lowe's, you'll see the exact same thing. All right, I don't have much time left. So if we could jump over to the proposed single-family, single-story, consistent with the surrounding land uses, stay out of the wetlands, incorporate the large cathedral oaks into the development, no more than 2.1, 2.7 units per acre, same as many of the other city annexation developments. Example, Fraser, Sleepy Hollow, 9.7, almost 10 acres, 2.7 units per acre. If we do this backwards, and we take these 48 proposed units and we divide that even per se 3, we're going to be left with, I didn't do the math on that, 48, 3. 15? Is it 50? 15 units. Required second access for the new development and required sidewalks for the first access and second access from development to 441. I'd like to thank you all for your time.
Good evening. My name is Deirdre Griffin. I live at 10534 Holloway Drive in Leesburg, Florida. I'm here today to express my concerns with the annexation rezoning case that does not have a second access for ingress and egress. P&Z voted for an approval only under the stipulation that there will be a second approved ingress and egress. The only ingress and egress onto 441 is overrun by heavy commercial development and causing congestion and confusion in the interior roads. The inadequate easements are legally granted 21 feet and 18.5 paved. The easements are merely a driveway. This will become a major safety risk due to the width as well as the risk to pedestrians due to lack of sidewalks if another development goes in. The road network has significant safety issues. If something blocks the road, since there's only one way in and one way out, there would be no way to get an ambulance or fire truck into the area. This is not in harmony with the public's best interest as it jeopardizes safety and welfare of the existing community. The proposed multifamily, multi-story, weekly, monthly, yearly rentals units will produce up to 141 additional vehicles and housing up to 208 occupants with no sidewalks towards 441. Essentially, new development would be making a substandard condition worse. I would also like to address my concerns with the mitigation of wetlands. Mitigation is usually done when development is unavoidable. However, mitigation can be avoided in this development proposal is unnecessary. There's no need to build 11 multifamily rental units 15 feet off of state waters or pool and clubhouse in designated wetlands. The displacement of surface water from the development by mitigation credits will cause a negative impact on neighboring properties. Since the development sits at a higher elevation than the neighboring properties, there is no tangible way to protect them from being impacted by stormwater runoff and displacement. The proposed annexation resulting development will not be consistent with the comprehensive plan. The streets are not adequate to support the anticipated traffic. The development will overload the non-exclusive easements outside the planned area. The small parcel is not suitable for the proposed use when considering its size, shape, location, and natural features. Multi-story, multifamily rentals will significantly alter the character of the surrounding properties. My R1 acreage will endure significant limits and impairs, preventing us from using our property in the same manner that we have been. Our privacy will be stripped away from us, and my children will have no safe place to play on our property without being watched at all times. My home will suffer substantial investment loss. This is not the environment that we bought and invested into. This proposal jeopardizes safety and welfare of the existing community and provides no approved second access for ingress and egress. Myself and my community would like to see less intensity and single-story homes with two-car garages. By changing the intensity and developing more towards a lakeside residential estate, traffic and safety concerns eliminate themselves. This is an opportunity to create infill that will have long-term sustainability, be environmentally friendly, compatible with the lakeshore appearance, consistent with neighboring property intensities and land uses, and puts community safety first. Please deny this proposal. Thank you for your time. Have a blessed night.
Hi, Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road, Leesburg. I have a video to present. Before that starts up, you got the right one there? I forgot what I named it. Anyway, so there is, I know where the place is. I know where this development is. I went there knowing where it was, and I missed the street, knowing where I was going. Go ahead, thank you.
This is an aerial view of the entrance to the proposed development from 441 via a left-hand turn. Please note that there is no street sign as you are actually entering the parking lot of two commercial establishments, Take 5 Oil Change and Goodwill Industries. Watch, it appears as if I'm entering to have my oil changed. Once you pass Take 5, you need to follow the narrow path next to Goodwill in order to reach the proposed development's main entrance.
I cut across Take 5's area. That's how thin that road is.
When exiting, you have to follow the same narrow path by Goodwill and Take 5 to reach the commercial parking lot exit onto 441, where you can only make a right-hand turn. Please note, if another vehicle was trying to enter the development, one of the vehicles would have to yield to allow passage, as the path is too narrow to accommodate more than one vehicle at a time. The idea of using this substandard road as an access point for any new development jeopardizes the safety and welfare of the general public. This video, taken by a homeowner who lives in the area, demonstrates that more often than not, when you're entering or leaving the community, you will come face to face with another vehicle where drivers have to yield in order to avoid a collision.
The last car coming up here on the road is going to have its blinker on. If you look at it really carefully, that car right there with the blinker on, that person, like many others, is confused, shuts off their blinker, and keeps on going.
Please take note that this is just a regular sized pickup truck. On another trip to this community, I had to yield to a FedEx truck on the same path. The traffic conflicts are a constant reality for anyone who has to enter or leave the existing communities. If this proposal moves forward, it will only serve to make a substandard condition more dangerous. We're asking the Leesburg City Commission to deny the request for annexation due to the substandard ingress and egress of the proposed development. As this video demonstrates, there are significant safety concerns regarding the width and condition of the access path, as well as the risk to pedestrians due to a lack of sidewalks. Utilizing a substandard single point of entry for the proposed development further jeopardizes the neighboring communities in the event of an emergency. Transportation and traffic safety studies, as well as a planned development review, should be completed and submitted to Leesburg's Planning Board prior to consideration for annexation.
Went over a hair. On the way out of that development, it's a 5-way intersection to 441. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is William Becker, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Alex Stewart, the owner of the Hideaway, and also Shoemaker, the lawyer for Mr. Stewart. I have a letter. I didn't make copies, so hopefully it's okay to read the letter and make a copy for you. But dear City Commissioners, this letter has been prepared on behalf of the Hideaway HMP, the Alex Stewart Properties, the owner of the Hideaway Mobile Home Park, owner, located at 10550 Holloway Drive, Leesburg, Florida 34788, parcel 321925 0004 053 000 property. The property is an existing residential mobile home community constructed in 1945. Okay, the owner has been notified by the homeowner president of the Hideaway Mobile Home Park of the proposed development of the annexation located at 32311 Angler Avenue, Leesburg, Florida. Parcel number the owner does not consent or authorize any second access or ingress or egress or any emergency access gate or any easement in, through, over, across, or upon his private property. Thank you very much.
Hello. I'm Kara Singletary from the Hunt Law Firm. I'm here on behalf of Daniel Howard and Deidre Griffin as their representative. And I would like to address some of the legal implications of this annexation. Previously at the hearing and reflected in the minutes before the Planning and Zoning Board, it was specifically stated that the project, in order to move forward to the City Commission with a condition precedent that a maximum 2-story dwelling would be allowable and a second access would be required. And if you go back and look through those minutes, that was the actual stipulation that was made for this project to even come before this board today. Obviously, those requirements have not been met. As the developer testified today, he intends to move forward with a 3-story development, as well as the possibility of a second access will not be available to this development. As you've indicated on the photos, which I believe are before you, you can see that the Hideaway Mobile Home Park would be necessary for that secondary access to reach out to the Starbucks. And without that approval, and that all of these accesses are granted through easements on deeds, it would not be possible to acquire that, especially not at a city level. The other item that I wish to address today is that under your own land development codes, and I'm specifically citing to Section 25-274 of the Plan Development District Intent Statements, the SPUD is specifically to provide for proper private development of infill areas, as well as for the development of limited uses, such as office, commercial, or light industrial, currently available in any other districts. What's indicated here today is supposedly a single-family dwelling. However, what's been shown does not appear to be a single-family dwelling. Under the plan development process, in order to move forward, the procedures must be met under Section 25-278, and specifically under Section 3. During the review, the Planning Division, which by extension is this commission for the purposes of annexation, shall distribute copies of the proposed development review to the committee for study and comment, and in considering the plan, the Planning Division shall seek to determine the following. And I'd like to point out several items, and part of the reason why I decided to go last was to allow everyone to present this issue before you on a fact basis, and then to bring it to you in a legal analysis under Section 25-278-3. Particularly, you're requesting, or you're required to consider the following in part: that the resulting development will not be inconsistent with the comp plan and zoning objectives currently listed. Those inconsistencies both in the application, where at parts it states multifamily for purposes of traffic evaluation, and later states single family, condominiums, townhomes, again, inconsistent throughout. Create the possibilities of these inconsistencies, as well as a resulting development that would not be consistent with the comp plan. Second, the streets are adequate to support the anticipated traffic, and development will not overload the streets outside the planned area. It is obvious from the statements that have been given by testimony of all the neighbors that the traffic analysis is not accurate to what is planned, nor is a second access available, and specifically that the streets are inadequate to support the anticipated traffic and development as currently positioned. Third, that the parcel is suitable for the proposed use, considering its size, shape, location, topography, existence of improvements, and natural features. You've received testimony tonight regarding the wetlands, the nature, the trees. The size of this proposal is not suitable to the land based on the presentation given. And also, I would state that the proposed use will not alter the character. In this case, it certainly would compared to what was presented as the historical character of this neighborhood. That the proposed use is timely considering the adequacy of public facilities. The facilities are not adequate, as the developer specifically stated that it requires the creation of a lift station to accommodate the sewage, and last, that the proposed use, which are not otherwise permitted by the underlying zoning on the parcel, or the accessory uses within the development. And I would bring to attention the specific inconsistency in the testimony of the developer from the first reading and today's second reading regarding the use of the docks. So docks are specifically noted in your land development codes as a specific use category, and I would reference the water-oriented category listed in the tables thereof. Those categories require a certain zoning, specifically, and I believe this is in, I'm not sure of the exact table number, but when the water use is going to be for the selling, leasing, or rental of covered or uncovered boat slips or dock space. It was testified by the developer at the first hearing, and again, that testimony would be prejudicial, obviously, to a court of law if at one reading they say there will be 11 rented boat slips, and then at this reading say that they will all be privately owned. That's an inconsistency that this board really needs to consider about what other inconsistencies are you being given. What type of perjury is going on? We all stood here and took an oath, right? That we would state the truth. So I would ask the court also, not the court, the commission, I'm preparing for the lawsuit. On your interlocal agreement, I would also address that under the enclaves, as this document was later provided to me, that under paragraph 3C(2), that the county consents to the annexation of the enclave, which results in the creation of an enclave, so long as Leesburg agrees to provide services to such enclave, which has not particularly been addressed to the enclave that would be created, which I know we addressed in detail at the first hearing, and also, and this is an and, that Leesburg holds a public hearing prior to such annexation where the owners of all properties within the enclave, not just those of this development or the neighboring ones, but all the ones that would reach in the enclave from this property all the way down to where the Home Depot is. All of those would have had to have received notice. I do not believe they did.
Yes,
So,
would you please wrap it up, please?
yes, so that would be it. All right?
Thank you. Any more public comment?
Can I say a skosh a little bit more? I know I didn't use all my time up, but I just wanted to mention that you have to go. I wanted to mention the other day when I came home on that access that there were people coming from each place and just 2 cars, and then they all filled what you would think is an intersection, and we know as drivers not to enter an intersection, but they all did anyway, and so I couldn't move, and there were people trying to get off the road behind me. It was very frightening, and I called y'all, and I don't remember the officer's name that they put me through to. You know, I did non-emergency, but they said because it was private, they had to wait for something to happen, like somebody being hurt or killed before. And so right now, we don't even have the development, and we're having major problems every day. Just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. Do we have any rebuttal from staff? Okay. Rebuttal from the petitioner.
Thank you. So I just want to point out first that the recommendation, which is a recommendation, is from a planning and zoning board. It's not a binding decision. It's advisory in nature. So I want to make sure that's cleared. The reason multifamily was used in the traffic study is because that was a requirement by the Metropolitan Planning Organization for that ITE code. This is a condominium. It is fee simple. It is not multifamily. So I want to also clear up that record. At this time, I would also like to play another video from the Board of County Commissioners meeting to indicate that based on the fire marshal's recommendation, they wanted another access point. The fire marshal, for the safety of that community, recommended that secondary access point. And the HOA president has this to say.
The Board of County Commissioners to send a letter to the City of Leesburg stating that due to substandard egress and ingress of the proposed development and utilizing a substandard single port of entry for the proposed development jeopardizes the neighboring communities in the event of an emergency. A planned development review as well as a transportation and traffic safety study should be completed and submitted to Leesburg's Planning Board prior to the second reading, which is on February 27th at 5:30 p.m. I ask that you would do that so that actually we have a lot of other things that will be covered, but that's just something that we're asking of the board. I've been in contact with our owner, and we are opposed, and he's getting a legal letter drawn up saying we do not want an extra entrance. We are fine the way we are. We can get our emergency vehicles in there. We do not. An extra entrance would actually come into our park and all the added in. Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Danielle,
That's all I have. Thank you for your time this evening.
All right. We'll have deliberation, comments.
I have probably flip-flopped on this one about 5 times in 10 days. It's been extremely tough one for me. But I've been out to the property. I've driven the area. I know the area, but I drove it some more. I cannot get comfortable with these roads. I'm not going to support it just because of roads.
I actually went out as well to look, and it is very congested. I mean, very narrow, so would not.
Without a second entrance, I can't support it either.
Just qualify that I'm not saying this would change my vote entirely, but it would be nice if the residents there could work out a way over time for the sake of all the communities to somehow get to that red light. I think that's what the county would like. I think it would be good for the city to somehow get traffic to that light there between, next to Starbucks.
At this time, I'd ask the commission to consider tabling the item.
No.
Based on?
Based on the working out the egress and ingress for the north-south road with the adjacent property owners.
It's up to the commission.
Sure, I'll make a motion, we table it.
So this is to give them an opportunity to work on a second entrance.
This would be to tables so that they could essentially have a continuance to come back and rework the plan if they want to, present the information again so the commission could review it again.
I'd like to meet with the developer as well, so I'll second that.
Discussion on the tabling motion? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
No.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
No.
Mayor Burry?
No. Item's not tabled, so at this point, we can have a vote on annexation.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Annexation is the first item.
We've already made a motion for the annexation, correct?
There was a motion to approve that spurred the discussion. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. So there is a motion on the table to approve.
Gotcha. Any other discussion? Do we have a second on it?
Do it. Who seconded it?
Well, you do on the original motion. You had a second.
Yeah.
I believe. If not, I'll second it.
Well, I have you as a motion. But I didn't get a
Second
second.
it. I believe
Oh,
I
Alan,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
You speak too soft. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any discussion on, any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
No.
Commissioner Peterson?
No.
Commissioner Berry?
No.
Mayor Burry?
No. So lacking annexation into the city, we do not need to address the PUD. Is that correct, Grant?
No, sir. If annexation was not approved, then that would make the other items moot, as there would be nothing to rezone or change the comp plan to with the property remaining in the county, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so moving on, first reading of ordinances, we have none. Non-routine items, we have none. Informational reports, we have none. City attorney items?
None. Thank you, sir.
How about city manager items? None. We'll have roll call, please.
Commissioner Connell?
Just to retouch on what Commissioner Reisman said earlier about he wouldn't mind having a discussion concerning these grant programs and putting some language in there on maintain of ownership for a certain amount of time or something to that effect. But I think that is a good idea to have a discussion on that, and I would ask the city manager maybe if he could bring that up as a discussion item at the next meeting.
Commissioner Reisman?
A couple things to follow up to my last meeting's comments. I wanted to bring up the commercial kitchen at the Resource Center. I've had some preliminary discussions with Al, and I wanted to see how the commission would feel about making that kitchen a commissary kitchen. Local businesses have expressed interest in the past, and this would allow them to pay a yearly commissary kitchen fee along with a rental price per hour based on the time frame they use it. So peak hours would be at a higher rate and off-peak would be at a lower rate. Any caterer who utilizes the facility would still be held to the 10% fee at the city-owned facilities and other event spaces. Miss Sandra Wilson is also contacting Lake Tech to see if they are still interested, but I understand they are having trouble doing class loading for the facility. I believe there will be times that Lake Tech and those businesses wishing to use the commissary kitchen, but I think with the schedule they could. If the commission is open to this concept, and maybe Al can elaborate on it a little bit, he said there would be an RFP to develop a use list, a price point, and a process that fairly gets interested parties lined up.
So would you,
If the commission would be open to that concept.
I'm probably going to struggle with that. I remember when we built the Venetian Center, we went through this big debate at the commission level, and we agreed we were going to keep it to a limited number. Now,
You said Venetian Center.
But this is
resource.
oh, okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
The Resource Center.
I was thinking Venetian Center.
The
Okay.
Resource Center kitchen, I
Okay,
believe,
I'm
has not
sorry.
been
I'm
used
sorry.
at
I'm
all.
okay. I'm sorry. I had Venetian Center on my brain.
Well, what we'll do is I'll work with Sandra Wilson, and we'll bring together kind of outlines of a proposal. The city of Eustis does a similar thing, so we'll give us a couple meetings, and we'll bring a proposal back to the commission.
That's great.
No, I'd like it for the Resource Center.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Okay. I just misheard you.
Yeah.
That'll be it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson?
Just one thing quickly. I need your help, Al. The basin at Ski Beach.
Yes.
Help me out with this one. Years ago, prior to my being on City Commission, they voted to allow no speed limits in there. Now I'm getting complaints about speed. They're rocking boats at Ski Beach. I've been there when the crowd jumps up to evaluate their boat out there at the dock. And I believe, help me out here, when the commission approved the open speed limit there, it was on a one-year
Right.
one-year deal that was
that was the wake
that would
zone.
expire on its own, I believe.
Yes, that was the wake zone discussions. Can't remember if we did it by ordinance or resolution, but in short, there is an ordinance on the books that has the basin as a no-wake zone. That basically starts at draw the line from Monkey Island across, right?
Yeah.
So the whole circle is a no-wake zone. That is how it is in code to this day. When the commission of the past flirted with lifting the no-wake zone, the compromise was to pass a one-year either resolution or ordinance that had to be renewed. And I think we did that in 18 and 19 or 16 and 17. We never went back after that and did another ordinance to continue the sunset. So automatically, the wake zone is an applicable, the no wake zone is still an applicable code. So technically it's that way. We also did some other research on that, and it is enforceable, and Fish and Wildlife still has it as a recognized no wake zone. So if we simply just repost it, that's legit. That's how it is. So if that's what the commission wants to do, we can get it reposted. On a local level, through the Leesburg Police Department, we don't have the ability to enforce it just because we don't have a water vessel. I don't think that Chief Hicks is going to be asking for a boat unless he steals Chief Mara's boat, which, I don't know if that one will chase anybody down. But no, in all seriousness, we never had the capacity to do that other than the signage. But Lake County SO, as well as Fish and Wildlife law enforcement, they do have the ability to do that, and it's listed as a no wake zone in the state. So really, all we need to do is put the circle in the line.
Okay, well, if everybody's okay with that, I'd like to see us do that.
That's one question.
Yes, sir.
Would that affect our events there when they do skiing in the basin?
It would. You would probably have to do a temporary lift for that to do special events and take it by a case-by-case basis.
Could we make a motion here and build that into it for special events approved by you?
I would take that as it comes.
Okay.
We have had maybe one event where there was a
talking about water ski show one time.
I would take that as it is. I think the feedback that I've received is that there's an overwhelming concern about it now with the restaurant there, with the docks there, that if people zip through there, we're going to create more of a hazard. So, if it's this body to post it, we'll post it and move on from there.
I'm looking around the table, but everybody knows where I stand.
Yeah. 100%. It needs to be a no wake zone.
We'll enforce what's on the books then, and I'll get back with Public Works.
And for the record, I was not on the commission when they voted at it. I was at the meeting, and I thought it was a crazy decision. Yeah.
Commissioner Berry?
No.
Mayor Burry?
went to the Black Heritage Festival Gala on Friday night and had a really, really good time. It was a record turnout, and I thought they did a really good job at honoring some well-deserving folks in the community. I'd also mention that this Saturday is the festival out on the Red Road right in front of Rhymes at the Resource Center. So it ought to be a good time. You ought to go check it out. That's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Excuse me.
Oh, you want to? Actually, sir, we don't take public comment.
I got an email to be here about this an application I had in for a sign and landscaping grant, and I haven't heard of it.
Let me see you after the meeting, which is now. So I'll come talk to you.
Okay.
So,